Imagine getting paid just for sharing your thoughts on products and services you use every day. With Survey Junkie, it's that simple. Click on the link in the video description to discover how you can start earning today by taking surveys.
Exclusive. The cop who saved lives by taking down an Islamist terrorist almost 10 years ago still can't be identified for legal reasons, and could go to prison if he speaks out about what happened. On December 15 to 16, 2014, Man Monis held 18 hostages in the Lindt Cafe on Martin Place in Sydney in a 16-hour standoff with police. Monis was armed with a pump shotgun, which he used to kill cafe manager Tory Johnson, and said he had a bomb in his backpack. The man, who can only be referred to as Officer A, was part of the Tactical Operations Unit, TOU, Alpha Team, and shot Monis dead, bringing the siege to an end in the early hours of the morning. Ever since, his name has been suppressed without ever being given a clear reason, and it's hugely affecting his life and making his post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, worse. It was initiated during the coroner's inquest, he told Daily Mail Australia. It was actually put forth by my legal team initially, a standard to stop reprisal attacks. Since then, we've made numerous requests to the coroner, Teresa O'Sullivan, who has told us that she can't do anything. His legal team has told him they believe that this isn't correct and that the coroner does have the power to take action. Under the gag order, Officer A could face 28 days in prison for each time he breaches the ban, plus an additional $2,200 fine per each offense. My thoughts are, the police don't want it brought back up, he said. They know they messed up on that day and they just want to silence me. The longer the suppression of his name goes on, the more it affects him, and he had to write his book as Officer A, with his name blacked out throughout it. It also stops him from being able to help others, especially as he had to leave the police due to PTSD. I want to speak to people with similar issues to mine, emergency service personnel and ex-military and just anyone with PTSD, he said. And I believe that my story and the way that I approach PTSD and refuse to let it beat me, I believe I could be helping a substantial number of people out there. So not only does it affect me on a personal level, but I believe that I could do some real good out there, and as it stands now, I'm not allowed to. Ironically, Officer A had his mandatory routine appointment with a psychologist on the morning of December 15, 2014. As he got back to the office, two of his TOU colleagues were rushing out. There's a counter-terrorism job at Martin Place. Grab your gear, we're going now, the sergeant shouted out. So, it's finally happened? Officer A called back, as he recounted in his book Tiger. 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 The Lindt Cafe siege. We all knew it was just a matter of time, especially since the 9/11 attacks in the US, he wrote. Hours later, before the operation that ended the siege, Officer A said he was resigned to the idea that I was never going to see my wife and daughter again. I wasn't ever going to hold the unborn baby that, my wife, was carrying, let alone see the rest of my family and good friends again. I said my goodbyes through text messages as best I could, without revealing our exact predicament. He and his fellow officers survived, Monis did not, and lives were saved. But a decade on, and despite the coronial inquest into the siege being closed, Officer A's name is permanently suppressed. Louisa Hope, one of the survivors who has become a friend of his, set up an online petition to help pressure the NSW government to allow him to get his name back. The ban on linking his real name to what happened in the Lindt Cafe 10 years ago makes it almost impossible to make new friends, something which is vitally important now. I'm separated and in the process of divorce, which is brought about through PTSD. It's a familiar story, sadly, he said. PTSD has affected my life and my fight against it, affecting me with my 3 daughters. Of course it's taken its toll on me. Officer A has a message for NSW Premier Chris Minns. Firstly, why do you keep ignoring my request? And secondly, this order that's in force through the coroner, it seems that order is now in existence forever. So for me that needs to be looked at on a legal front. How can such an order be enforced forever? And I'd like him to address it. Anything to do with the law is very expensive, as Officer A is well aware. H.